Tom lay in his bunk, listening to the quiet hum of the outpost's power systems. The nights on the mining station were long and silent, broken only by the distant vibration of machines that kept the air breathable and the lights glowing. He was used to it by now. Life out here was lonely but predictable. His roommate, Myra, had been living with him for almost 3 months. She was polite but distant. She spoke little, spent most of her free hours in her corner of the room, and always wore long clothes that covered her arms and neck. Sometimes Tom wondered why she had been assigned to share a room with him at all. The station was full of empty bunks. But the council had ordered it, and orders were not questioned. Tom turned on his side, half asleep, when he heard a soft sound. A faint shuffle. His eyes opened slowly. He thought Myra was moving around her side of the room, maybe adjusting her bed. But then came another sound, like someone losing balance. Before Tom could react, something heavy landed right on him. He gasped, fully awake now. Myra had fallen across his bed, her body pressing down on his chest. The room's low light flickered for a second, and that was when Tom froze. Her skin, where the fabric of her sleeve had pulled back, was glowing faintly. Not a reflection. Not a trick of the light. A soft pale glow came from her skin itself. "Myra," Tom whispered, unsure if he should push her off or remain still. Her eyes widened, and for the first time since he met her, Tom saw fear in them. She scrambled up quickly, pulling her sleeve down to cover her arm. She turned away, hiding her face, breathing fast. Tom sat up, heart pounding. What was that?" She didn't answer. She stood there with her back to him, trembling slightly. Her silence said more than words could. Tom realized she was hiding something she never wanted him to see. "I saw it," he said quietly. "Your arm was glowing. That's not normal." "Forget it," Myra said sharply, though her voice shook. "You saw nothing." Tom frowned. "Myra, you can't expect me to ignore it. What's going on?" For a long moment, there was only the low hum of the machines. Myra didn't turn around. She stayed by her bed, clutching her blanket like it was a shield. Tom noticed how small her shoulders looked, how tense her body was. Finally, she whispered, "If you tell anyone, I will be taken away." Tom blinked. The word sent a chill down his spine. Taken away? By who? The council. She nodded slightly, still facing the wall. Tom tried to keep his voice calm. "Myra, what are you?" That question hung in the air like a heavy weight. Slowly, she turned back toward him. Her face was pale, her eyes bright in the dim light. She looked at him as if deciding whether she could trust him. "I'm not from here," she said softly. "Not from Earth." Tom stared at her, unsure if he heard correctly. "You mean, you're..." "Yes," she whispered. "I'm not human." Tom leaned back, his thoughts racing. His roommate, the quiet girl who barely spoke and kept to herself, was an alien living right under the council's nose. Suddenly her strange habits made sense: her long clothes, her late hours, the way she always avoided inspections. But another thought pressed into his mind. If anyone else discovered this, Myra could be in danger. The council didn't allow unknown outsiders. They already feared spies and enemies from beyond. If they knew she was different, they would act quickly. Myra lowered her head. "I did not want you to know. I tried to hide. But now," she touched her sleeve where the glow had shone. "I lost control for a moment." Tom swallowed. "You fell, because of that?" She nodded. "Sometimes my body grows weak when I hold the glow inside too long. I must let it out, but it is not safe here." Tom felt torn between shock and curiosity. Part of him wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Where did she come from? Why was she here? How many others like her were hiding? But another part of him saw how frightened she was. He took a slow breath. Myra, I won't tell anyone. I promise. Her eyes searched his face, as if trying to measure his honesty. She had been hiding the secret for so long that trust did not come easily. After a moment, she nodded slowly. Thank you, she said quietly. Tom shifted on his bed, trying to calm his racing thoughts. So, how long have you been here? On this station? Almost 1 year, she said. Before you arrived, I lived alone in another quarter. Then they assigned me here, to share a room. I thought it would end badly. I thought you would see the truth sooner. He almost laughed, though it wasn't funny. You're good at hiding it. I had no idea until tonight. Silence settled between them again. Tom could hear her steady breathing, though it sounded heavier than usual. Myra sat down on her bed, still clutching the blanket. She looked smaller somehow, not like the mysterious figure he had thought she was, but like someone carrying a burden too heavy for one person. Tom rubbed his forehead. He had joined the outpost thinking his life would be routine: work the machines, fix broken systems, eat simple meals, sleep, and repeat. Now his roommate was an alien with glowing skin, and he was the only human who knew. The weight of that secret pressed down on him. But strangely, he didn't feel fear toward her. Instead, he felt a protective instinct. Finally, he said, you don't have to explain everything tonight. But you're safe with me. I won't let anyone hurt you. Myra looked up at him, her eyes wide and uncertain. For the first time since she moved in, her guarded walls cracked. She gave him a small, almost invisible smile. Then I will trust you, she whispered. Tom lay back in his bed again, staring at the ceiling, unable to close his eyes. His world had changed in a single moment, and he knew nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, Tom woke early. He lay still for a while, staring at the metal ceiling of the small room. His mind kept circling back to what had happened in the night. Myra's glowing skin, her fearful eyes, and her whispered words still echoed in his head. Across the room, Myra sat quietly on her bed, as if nothing had happened. She was dressed in her usual long sleeves and gloves. Her face was calm, but Tom noticed the stiffness in her shoulders. She was waiting for him to speak, yet she said nothing first. Tom sat up and cleared his throat. Myra, about last night. Her eyes flicked toward him, then away. We should not talk about it. But I need to understand, Tom said gently. I can keep your secret, but I can't ignore it. You're my roommate. If you're in danger, I'm in danger too. I just want to know the truth. Myra held her blanket tightly in her hands. For a moment, Tom thought she would refuse again. But then she sighed and lowered her head. You saw what I am, she said quietly. I am Vera. My people once lived far away, on a world that no longer exists. Our planet was dying, so we scattered across the stars. Some of us tried to live among humans. I am one of them. Tom blinked. The name meant nothing to him. Vera, he repeated slowly. That's your people's name. She nodded. We were not warriors or conquerors. We were travelers, seekers of safe homes. But wherever we went, fear followed us. Humans do not like what they cannot understand. Your council is strict. They would never allow me to live here openly. So I hide. Her words carried a heavy sadness. Tom leaned forward, elbows on his knees. How many of you are here? On this station? I do not know, Myra admitted. Perhaps only me. Perhaps others too, hiding as I do. We do not speak of it. We keep apart to survive. Tom frowned. He thought about the council. They already distrusted outsiders. If they found out even one alien was living among them, they might see it as proof of infiltration. Myra would be taken away, maybe worse. But why here? Tom asked. Why this station? You could have chosen anywhere. She looked at him, her eyes steady now. Because humans are strong. You endure harsh worlds, build machines that never rest, and fight against the cold emptiness of space. My people admire that. I came to learn from humans. To see if there could be peace between us. But I cannot learn if I am not close. That is why I live here, even if it is dangerous. Tom felt a strange pride stir inside him. Myra's words painted humanity in a way he had never thought about before. He had joined the station out of duty, not because he admired human strength. Yet here was someone from another world, risking everything just to live among them. Still, the risk was real. If the council suspects anything, you'll be in trouble, Tom said. Myra nodded. That is why you must not speak of this. Not to anyone. I won't, Tom said firmly. I gave you my word. Her tense expression softened a little. For the first time, she looked at him with trust rather than fear. The rest of the day passed slowly. Tom worked his shift repairing damaged power lines along the station's outer rim, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Myra. Every time he held a tool or checked a system, her glowing skin appeared in his mind. He wondered what other secrets she carried. What else was she capable of hiding? That evening, when he returned to the room, Myra was sitting at the small table, tracing shapes on a thin piece of paper. Tom was surprised. She never used paper, she always preferred the digital screen like everyone else. What are you drawing? Tom asked, pulling up a chair. Myra hesitated, then turned the paper so he could see. The lines formed a pattern like stars and curves crossing between them. It looked like a map. This is my home, she said softly. Or what is left of it? These marks are the places where the Vero once lived. They are gone now. Only memory remains. Tom studied the drawing. It looks beautiful, he said honestly. Myra's lips curved into the faintest smile. It was. Our world had oceans of light, not water. The surface glowed at night like fireflies. But the planet began to break apart. We could not save it. Tom felt a lump in his throat. He could imagine what it meant to lose an entire world. His own home on Earth felt far away, yet he knew it was still there. For Myra, there was no home to return to. Do you miss it? He asked quietly. Every day, she answered. But I cannot go back. So I look forward. That is why I stay here. Perhaps among humans, there can be a future. Her words stayed with him long after. That night, when the station lights dimmed, Tom lay awake again. He glanced across the room at Myra's silhouette. She seemed calm, but he knew she was always hiding, always carrying the weight of her secret. He thought about the danger she faced. If even one person discovered her truth, the council would act. He remembered the fear in her voice the night before. Taken away. That phrase haunted him. He didn't know what the council did with those they distrusted, but he knew it could not be good. Tom clenched his fists under the blanket. He had made a promise, and he would keep it. Myra's secret was safe with him. He would protect her, no matter the cost. But deep inside, he wondered how long they could keep this hidden. Secrets always had a way of coming to light, and the station was full of eyes. For now, though, the room was quiet. Myra slept soundly, her blanket pulled up to her chin. The faint hum of machines filled the air. Tom closed his eyes at last, knowing that life on the outpost had changed forever. And this was only the beginning. The days after Myra revealed her secret felt different for Tom. Every moment in the room carried a quiet tension, not the uncomfortable kind, but something heavier, like both of them were holding onto a truth too big for their small space. Tom noticed things about Myra that he had ignored before. Small details stood out now that he knew she was not human. When she lifted crates in the supply bay, her strength seemed unusual. Other workers struggled with the heavy loads, but Myra carried them with ease, though she always pretended to strain so no one would notice. When Tom worked on power lines, she sometimes walked by, and without touching the machines she could tell when one would fail. She would quietly warn him, and she was always right. Tom realized that Myra was not only hiding her true self, she was constantly holding back her abilities to blend in. One evening, as the two of them shared dinner at the small table in their room, Tom leaned back in his chair. "You could do so much more if people knew what you really are," he said. Myra looked up from her plate, her eyes sharp. "Or I could be locked away." "You forget the fear of your council. They do not welcome what they cannot control." Tom shrugged. "Maybe. But still, it feels wrong for you to hide all the time." Myra studied him for a moment, then asked, "And if you were in my place? If you were the one forced to hide your skin, your voice, your history, would you show yourself freely?" Tom opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. Her words made him think of how hard it must be to live every day pretending to be someone else. After a pause, Tom said, "I just don't like seeing you so alone. You don't talk to anyone here. You don't laugh. You keep everything inside." Her expression softened, though only slightly. "And yet you see me. That is more than I expected." The words surprised Tom. He had never thought of himself as special. But to Myra, even simple kindness seemed rare. Over the next week, their bond grew stronger in small ways. Tom found himself telling her stories from Earth, about the noisy streets of the city where he grew up, about the taste of real fruit that didn't come from rations, about the sound of rain on rooftops. Myra listened closely, as if she was storing each memory for herself. In return, Myra began sharing more about the Vera. She described how her people communicated not only with words but also with pulses of light from their skin. It was a language of color and rhythm, something no human could fully copy. She showed him one night by letting her hand glow softly, shifting from pale blue to gold. The sight filled the room with gentle light, and Tom could only stare in awe. "What does that mean?" he asked. Myra smiled faintly. "It means trust." Tom felt warmth rise in his chest. He had earned something rare, and he knew it. But not everything was peaceful. Around the station, rumors began to spread. People whispered that someone was hiding forbidden technology. The council had tightened security. Inspections of personal quarters grew more frequent. Soldiers walked the halls with sharper eyes. Tom noticed how Myra grew quieter during these times, her movements careful, her eyes always watching the door. One afternoon, as Tom returned from his shift, he found Myra sitting stiffly on the edge of her bed. She looked pale. "What's wrong?" Tom asked quickly. "They searched the next block," she said in a low voice. "They took a worker away. He had only an old scanner, nothing dangerous, but they accused him of theft. If they search here and find my device," her voice trailed off. Tom knew what device she meant. The small machine that maintained her disguise. Without it, her secret would be visible to everyone. He sat down beside her, speaking firmly. "Then we won't let them find it? If they search here, I'll say it's mine. I'll tell them it's just an old repair tool." Myra turned to him, eyes wide. "You would risk yourself for me?" "Of course," Tom said. "You trusted me with your secret. I'm not going to let them take you." She studied him for a long moment, her face unreadable. Finally, she whispered, "You are unlike the others." Tom smiled faintly. "I'll take that as a compliment." That night, as the lights dimmed, Tom couldn't sleep. He thought about the risk he was taking. If the council caught him lying, they could punish him, maybe even remove him from the station. But when he looked across the room and saw Myra resting quietly, the glow of her skin faintly showing through her blanket, he knew he had made his choice. He would protect her no matter what. The next day, Tom and Myra worked side by side in the repair bay. For once, Myra allowed herself to relax a little. She asked Tom questions about Earth food, about what snow felt like, and about music. Tom laughed as he tried to explain. He even hummed a few lines of an old song, and Myra tilted her head, listening as if it were something entirely new. "I think I would like music," she said softly. "You'd love it," Tom replied. Something unspoken passed between them then, a connection that neither of them could explain. Tom felt closer to her than he had to anyone in years. But at the back of his mind, he knew danger was near. The council was searching harder, growing restless. The bond between him and Myra was strong, but the walls around them were closing in. For now, though, Tom chose to hold on to the small moments. Sharing stories. Quiet laughter. The soft glow of her hand when she trusted him enough to show it. The outpost was cold, the halls were harsh, and the council was strict. But in that small room, something different was growing. Something fragile but powerful. A strange bond between a human and an alien who had fallen into his life by accident, but who now felt impossible to let go. The outpost had always been strict, but now the atmosphere grew heavier. Whispers filled the halls. People spoke in low voices about contraband, about stolen tools, about strange signals picked up by the station's sensors. No one knew the truth, but the council believed someone was hiding something dangerous. Tom noticed how the guards walked differently. They no longer strolled through the halls. They marched. Their eyes searched every face. Their hands stayed close to their weapons. Every few days, an inspection team moved through the living quarters, checking lockers, checking beds, scanning the walls for hidden devices. Tom and Myra knew it was only a matter of time before the search reached their room. One evening, Tom returned from a long day of repairing the water pumps. He found Myra sitting at the table, her hands folded tightly together. She looked up as soon as he entered, her face pale. "They searched the southern wing today," she said. "They took 3 men away. 1 for keeping a broken scanner, 2 for carrying extra rations. If they search here," she stopped. Tom closed the door and sat across from her. "If they come, we'll be ready. I'll take the blame. I'll say the device is mine." Her eyes widened. "You cannot. They would punish you." "I don't care," Tom said firmly. "They won't hurt you if they believe it belongs to me." Myra shook her head. "Why do you do this? You barely knew me before my secret was revealed. Now you risk everything for me. Why?" Tom paused. The truth was simple, though difficult to put into words. "Because you trusted me. Because you're not the enemy. You're just trying to live. That's reason enough." For a long moment, Myra stared at him. Then her shoulders relaxed slightly, though her eyes still carried worry. The next day came faster than they expected. Just after dawn, a loud knock struck their door. "Inspection," a soldier's voice called. Myra froze. Tom stood quickly, his heart racing. He opened the door to find 3 guards and 1 officer standing outside. The officer, a tall man with cold eyes, stepped in without asking. "Room check," the officer said. His voice carried no emotion. The guards began searching. They lifted blankets, opened lockers, and scanned the walls. Myra sat stiffly on her bed, her hands gripping the blanket so tightly her knuckles turned white. Tom forced himself to stay calm, even as his chest tightened. One of the guards moved toward Myra's small storage box. Inside, under folded clothes, was the device that kept her disguise steady. If they touched it, everything would unravel. Tom stepped forward quickly. "That box is mine," he said. "Tools for repair. Nothing dangerous." The guard looked at him suspiciously. "Then you won't mind if we check?" Tom swallowed hard. "Of course." The guard pulled the clothes aside. The small device sat at the bottom, humming faintly. He frowned and lifted it out. "What's this?" Tom forced a steady tone. "Old repair equipment. I use it to stabilize power circuits. Outdated, but it still works." The officer took the device, studying it with sharp eyes. "Not regulation," he said flatly. Tom shrugged, trying to appear casual. "I found it during a salvage run. Thought it might be useful. Didn't think it mattered." The officer stared at him for a long time. Tom's heart pounded so hard he thought it might shake his chest. But finally, the officer handed the device back to the guard. "Keep it," the officer said. "But next time, declare what you bring in. The council does not tolerate secrets." With that, the inspection ended. The guards left, the door sliding shut behind them. Tom let out a long breath and leaned against the wall. Myra was still on her bed, her face pale but her eyes fixed on him. "You lied for me," she whispered. Tom nodded, his legs weak. "I told you I would." Myra stood slowly. She walked to him and placed her hand gently on his arm. For the first time, she did not hide her glow. A soft light spread from her skin, covering his sleeve in pale gold. "This means gratitude," she said quietly. Tom met her eyes. "You don't have to thank me. We're in this together now." That night, the tension between them shifted into something stronger. They were no longer just roommates sharing a secret. They were allies. Trust bound them closer than either had expected. But outside their room, the threat grew. The council continued its searches. Rumors spread that the outpost was being watched by something beyond the stars. Strange signals still came through the scanners, signals no one could explain. Some believed it was smugglers. Others whispered of alien spies. Tom noticed the way Myra grew restless whenever those rumors were spoken. Her hands trembled slightly, her gaze turning distant. One evening, after another inspection swept the northern wing, Tom found her standing by the small window that showed the endless stars. Her voice was low when she finally spoke. "My people are near," she said. "Their ships wait in hiding. They watch, waiting for word. If the council discovers me, they may think war has come." Tom's stomach tightened. "War? Myra, are they here to fight?" "No," she said quickly. "They want peace. But if they believe I am harmed, they will defend me. That could bring battle whether we wish it or not." Tom rubbed his forehead. The secret he carried now felt even heavier. This was bigger than a single roommate hiding from the council. It was about two species, standing at the edge of either peace or conflict. He looked at Myra, her face lit by the faint glow of distant stars. "Then we can't let them find out," he said firmly. "We'll protect your secret. No matter what." Myra turned to him, her eyes shining with something unspoken. She nodded slowly. "Then we stand together." And in that moment, Tom knew the threat was no longer just inspections or suspicious guards. The real danger was the fragile line between fear and trust. One wrong step, one careless word, and everything could collapse. The days after the inspection were uneasy. Tom and Myra spoke less in the halls, keeping their voices low and their expressions calm, but inside their room they whispered in long conversations late into the night. Both of them knew the danger was growing. Every inspection came closer. Every rumor carried more weight. Tom tried to act normal during his work shifts, but his mind was always divided. He kept thinking of Myra's words. Her people were near. Hidden ships waited in silence, watching the outpost from the dark space beyond. If the council discovered her, if they harmed her, it could bring disaster for everyone. One night, as Tom returned from repairing oxygen lines, he found Myra sitting at the table with a piece of paper spread out. She was drawing again, but this time it was not her lost world. It was a sketch of the station. Lines marked the corridors, arrows pointed to the airlocks, and small circles showed the guard posts. Tom closed the door quietly and sat across from her. "You're planning something." Myra looked up, her face serious. "Yes. I have to leave before they find me. If I stay, it will end badly. Not just for me, but for my people and for yours." Tom frowned. "Leave? Alone?" She nodded. "It is the safest way. I know paths through the lower decks where guards rarely go. If I reach the outer docks, I can signal my people to take me." Tom shook his head firmly. "You won't make it by yourself. Too many checkpoints. Too many eyes. You'll need help." Myra hesitated. "And you would risk yourself again? You already lied to protect me. If you come, you may never return." Tom leaned closer. "If you run, I run with you. I won't sit here while you risk everything. We'll make a plan together." For a moment, Myra stared at him, her eyes searching his face. Then she gave a slow nod. That night, they began their plan. Tom used his knowledge of the station's systems to mark the times when guards rotated shifts. Myra used her memory of the hidden maintenance passages she had quietly explored in her time on the outpost. Piece by piece, they shaped a path that could lead them to freedom. During the following days, Tom began gathering supplies in secret. He tucked away ration packs during meal shifts, slipped extra water containers into his work bag, and quietly collected small tools. Myra hid them beneath her blankets, where no guard would bother to look again so soon after the last inspection. But preparation was not only about supplies. It was also about trust. Tom and Myra grew closer during those stolen moments. At night, when the lights dimmed and silence filled the room, Myra sometimes allowed her skin to glow softly, practicing the natural light of her people. Tom watched in quiet amazement, learning the meanings of her colors. Blue meant calm, green meant hope, gold meant trust. One evening, Tom asked, "Do your people know you're here?" "Yes," Myra answered softly. "They watch from afar, waiting for me to send a signal. But I feared what might happen if I called them too soon. Humans are quick to raise weapons. I waited, perhaps too long." Tom nodded slowly. "When we reach the docks, we'll signal them. Then it will be your choice what comes next." She gave him a faint smile. "Our choice. Not mine alone." The bond between them felt unbreakable now. Tom no longer thought of Myra as a stranger or a secret. She was a friend, perhaps more than that, though he could not yet name it. What mattered was that he would not leave her behind. Their plan was nearly ready when the council made their next move. A notice spread through the station: a full inspection of every quarter would begin at sunrise. No room would be skipped. No possession would go unchecked. Myra sat on her bed, her hands trembling as she held the paper sketch. "We cannot wait. If they find my device tomorrow, it is over. We must go tonight." Tom took a deep breath. He had known this moment was coming, but now that it was here, the weight pressed hard on his chest. "Then tonight it is. We'll take the lower passages, reach the outer docks, and send your signal." They moved quickly. Tom stuffed ration packs, water, and tools into a small bag. Myra carefully packed the device that kept her disguise steady. She also carried her drawings, folded tightly. Tom noticed but said nothing. He knew they meant too much to her to leave behind. Before they left, Myra paused at the door. Her eyes glowed faintly as she looked around the room. I will not see this place again, she said softly. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. Then let's make sure you see somewhere better. The corridors were quiet as they slipped out. The lights were dim, with only the low hum of machines breaking the silence. Tom led the way toward the maintenance shafts, using his work knowledge of the station to avoid the main paths. Myra followed closely, her steps light and silent. They reached the first shaft without trouble. Tom pried the panel open, and they climbed inside. The narrow tunnel smelled of oil and metal. Pipes lined the walls, carrying water and air to the living blocks. Tom crawled forward, his bag strapped tight to his back, while Myra moved behind him. At one point, Tom froze as footsteps echoed outside the shaft. A guard was walking by. They held their breath until the sound faded. Myra's hand brushed against his boot, steady and calm, reminding him they were not alone. For over an hour, they moved through the shafts and corridors, sometimes dropping into empty storage rooms, sometimes waiting in shadows for guards to pass. Each step carried more risk, but also more hope. Finally, they reached the lower deck that connected to the outer docks. Through a narrow vent, Tom saw the faint glow of the docking bay lights. Relief filled him, but also caution. Guards stood near the main door. They could not simply walk through. Myra leaned close and whispered, "There is another way. A small hatch used for cargo waste. It leads outside. If we can reach it, my people will find us." Tom nodded. "Show me." Together, they slipped down a ladder and moved along a dim hallway. The hatch Myra spoke of was at the far end, hidden behind stacked crates. But before they reached it, a voice called out. "Who goes there?" Two guards stepped from the shadows, their weapons raised. Tom's heart pounded. He and Myra froze. Their plan had been careful, but now it balanced on the edge of failure. The guards' voices echoed in the dim hallway, sharp and commanding. Tom and Myra froze where they stood, their hearts racing. The two men stepped closer, their boots striking against the metal floor. "Stop right there," one of them said, shining a small light toward them. Tom's mind raced. If they searched Myra, they would see the device. Her secret would be revealed in a single moment. He had to think fast. He raised his hand slowly. "It's me, Tom," he said, trying to sound calm. "I was sent to check these crates. There was a report of a leak down here." The guard frowned. "At this hour? And who is that with you?" Tom's heart sank. Myra kept her hood low, but her silence drew suspicion. He stepped slightly in front of her. "She's helping me carry the tools. We didn't mean to alarm you." The second guard shook his head. "Orders are clear. No one is allowed near the docks tonight. You'll both come with us for questioning." Myra's fingers tightened on the strap of her small bag. Tom saw the glow of fear in her eyes. If they went with the guards, it was over. He had only one choice. Before the guards could step closer, Tom dropped the bag he carried and swung a loose metal pipe he had hidden under his sleeve. The strike hit the first guard's hand, knocking his weapon to the ground. The man shouted in pain. "Run!" Tom shouted. Myra did not hesitate. She darted past the guards, quick as light, her steps almost silent. Tom followed, pushing the second guard aside with all his strength. The man stumbled, but quickly shouted for backup. The alarm rang through the deck, a loud wail that shook the air. Red lights flashed along the ceiling. "Move, Myra!" Tom urged, racing toward the end of the hall. They reached the crates, and Myra pulled them aside with surprising strength. Behind them was the hatch she had spoken of, small and round, with warning symbols painted across it. Tom dropped to his knees, working the lock with the small tools he had brought. His hands shook as shouts grew louder behind them. The guards were gathering. Footsteps thundered closer. "Hurry," Myra whispered, glancing back. Her skin flickered with faint light, gold and green mixed, the colors of trust and fear. The lock clicked open. Tom pulled the hatch wide, and a rush of cold air swept in. Beyond was a narrow chute that led straight into the darkness of space. "Go," Tom said. Myra shook her head. Together. They both slipped inside, pulling the hatch closed behind them. The sound of boots and shouts faded as they slid down the chute. The air grew colder, and their hearts pounded harder. Finally, the chute opened into a small maintenance platform clinging to the outer edge of the station. Stars spread in every direction, bright and endless. The station's massive frame loomed above them, metal arms reaching into the black void. Tom shivered. The cold bit deep, but the sight of freedom filled him with strength. "Now what?" he asked. Myra reached into her bag and pulled out the device she had carried so carefully. It glowed faintly, alive with strange energy. She pressed her hand against it, and beams of light shot upward into the sky, forming a symbol that only her people could read. "They will come," she said softly. Tom stepped closer, keeping his eyes on the stars. "How soon?" Before Myra could answer, a shout carried from above. Guards had opened the hatch they had escaped through. Flashlights cut across the platform. "There they are," a voice roared. Blaster fire cracked through the silence. Bright bolts struck the metal rails, sending sparks flying. Tom grabbed Myra's arm and pulled her behind a large support beam. "We won't last long here," he said, his breath sharp. Myra looked at him, her eyes glowing gold. "Then we hold until they arrive." The guards advanced, weapons raised. Tom picked up a fallen metal bar and gripped it tightly. He knew it was no match for their fire, but he would not let them take Myra. Then, the sky itself seemed to tear open. A massive shape appeared above them, silent and swift. Its surface gleamed like crystal under the starlight, and its edges shifted as if alive. The guards stopped in shock, staring upward. Myra's face lit with hope. "My people." The alien ship descended without a sound, stopping just beyond the platform. A ramp extended, glowing faintly. The guards shouted and fired, but beams of light from the alien ship created a shield around Tom and Myra. The shots bounced away harmlessly. "Go," Tom urged, pulling Myra toward the ramp. They ran across the platform, dodging sparks and fire. Myra reached the ramp first and turned back to extend her hand. Tom grabbed it, and together they pulled themselves onto the glowing surface. The ramp lifted, carrying them inside. The guards' shouts faded as the ship sealed shut. Inside, the air was warm, filled with a soft humming sound. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, shifting like living veins. Myra's disguise flickered, and her true form glowed brighter than Tom had ever seen. Other figures appeared, tall and graceful, their skin glowing in patterns of calm and welcome. They spoke in a language Tom did not understand, but Myra answered quickly, her voice filled with relief. Then she turned to Tom. "You are safe now." "We both are." Tom looked at her, still breathing hard from the chase. "Safe, maybe. But what happens next? The council will call this an attack." Myra grew quiet. Her golden eyes met his. "Then we must choose. To hide, or to face them together." The alien ship moved smoothly away from the station. Through the viewing port, Tom saw the outpost shrinking into the distance, alarms still flashing along its decks. He knew this was only the beginning. But as Myra stood beside him, her light glowing softly, he felt no fear. Only a deep certainty that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The alien ship drifted away from the outpost, its crystal walls glowing faintly against the endless dark. Tom stood near the wide viewing port, his hands pressed against the smooth surface. He had never seen the stars this close. They looked sharper, brighter, like fire scattered across an endless sea. Behind him, Myra spoke with her people. Their voices were calm and melodic, flowing like water. They surrounded her in a circle, touching her shoulders with hands that glowed in patterns of light. Tom could not understand the words, but he could see the meaning. Relief. Welcome. Home. Myra stepped away from them and returned to Tom's side. Her disguise was gone now. Her skin shimmered softly, the colors shifting from green to gold as if the light inside her body was alive. She looked at him with eyes full of both joy and worry. "They are happy to see me," she said softly. "But they do not understand why I brought you." Tom smiled faintly. "I don't blame them. I hardly understand it myself." Myra's expression grew serious. "They know what you risked for me. They saw how you stood against your own guards. But the council will not see it that way. The humans will believe you betrayed them." Tom turned back to the stars. "Maybe I did. But what choice did I have? I wasn't going to let them take you." Myra's colors shifted again, this time glowing brighter. "That is why I trust you. But now we must face what comes next. There is a path only we can walk." Before Tom could reply, a deep sound filled the chamber. The walls shifted and opened into a larger hall. At the center stood an elder figure taller than the rest, with skin glowing in complex patterns of silver and blue. His eyes glimmered like polished glass. Myra bowed her head. "Elder Solon," she whispered. The elder's voice was calm but carried weight. "Child of our line, you have returned. But you are not alone." His gaze moved to Tom. "This human stands where none of his kind has stood before." Tom stepped forward, nervous but steady. "My name is Tom. I helped Myra escape. That is all." Solon studied him for a long moment. Then he spoke again. "You risked your life for her. Few of your people would have done the same. Why?" Tom thought of the night Myra had fallen onto his bed, her disguise slipping for the first time. He thought of the way she had feared being discovered, the way she had trusted him slowly, day by day. He thought of the colors that flowed across her skin when she laughed. "Because she is my friend," he said simply. "Because she trusted me, and I could not break that trust." The elder's glow shifted, as if surprised. Then he turned to Myra. "And you, child? Why bring him here? Why reveal our refuge to a human?" Myra lifted her head proudly. "Because he deserves to know. Because he stood with me when none of his kind would have. If we are to survive, we cannot live in shadows forever. We must trust. He is proof of that." The elder grew silent. The hall waited, every alien figure watching him. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps this is the time for a new path." The ship trembled slightly, and a screen of light appeared in the air. It showed the human outpost, alarms still flashing. Dozens of ships were gathering, forming a net around the area. Human voices carried faintly through the comm systems. They were demanding the alien ship surrender Myra. Tom's heart sank. "They think you kidnapped me. They'll never believe I chose this." Myra's eyes met his. "Then we must show them. Together." The elder raised a hand. "If we face them now, it may mean war. But if we run, they will hunt us endlessly. What do you choose, human?" Tom felt the weight of the moment. He was only one soldier, only one man, yet his choice now could shape the future between two worlds. He looked at Myra, and he knew his answer. "We face them," he said firmly. The alien ship turned, gliding back toward the human fleet. The hall dimmed, but the walls pulsed with steady light. Myra stood beside Tom, her presence strong and unshaken. When they drew close, a human voice filled the chamber. "This is Commander Reeves of the United Earth Guard. Return the human at once, or we will open fire." Tom stepped forward, speaking into the ship's communicator. "Commander, this is Tom. I am alive and unharmed. I was not taken. I chose to leave with Myra. She is not our enemy." There was silence on the line, then a sharp reply. "Tom, listen to me. They are using you. Step away, and we can protect you." Tom's jaw tightened. "No. You don't understand. Myra saved me as much as I saved her. Her people are not here to fight. They only want to live. If you open fire, you will start a war we cannot win." Another voice joined the call, colder and harder. "You have broken your oath, soldier. You will be treated as a traitor if you do not return." Tom's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "If loyalty means abandoning someone who trusted me, then I would rather be a traitor." The hall fell silent after his words. Even Myra's people seemed still, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Myra's skin shimmered bright gold, the color of courage and pride. Finally, Commander Reeves spoke again, his voice lower now. "You've made your choice, Tom. You and the alien are on your own." The human fleet pulled back, but their weapons stayed ready. The elder Solon turned to Tom. "Your own kind has cast you aside. Do you regret it?" Tom shook his head. "No, I stood for what I believe in. That's enough for me." Myra stepped closer, placing her glowing hand over his. "And you will not stand alone. My people will see you as one of us." The elder studied them both, then raised his arms. The hall glowed brighter. "So it begins. A bridge between our worlds, born from trust and courage." The alien ship turned again, leaving the human fleet behind. Inside, Tom stood beside Myra, no longer afraid. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with risk and challenge, but it was also filled with hope. For the first time, Tom felt he was part of something greater than himself. Not just a soldier. Not just a human. But a bridge between two species, bound by trust and friendship. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, he knew their story was only beginning.